as we see the games begin. Magnus Carlsen all smiles.
Magnus looks disgusted already with with the moves there.
Disgusted,
so the
happy,
having handled the score sheets.
He's looking around. He's like, where are the commentators? Bring them to me now.
Give them white in this stupid position. Then we see the position after bishop g5. That was actually the big innovation. He played knight g5 earlier, which also looks good. Knight g5 and f4. Now they switched to bishop g5 and queen to d6. Wow. And rook d1. Rook d1, a bit of a mistake, because it allowed bishop b6, clearing this a5 square for the knight. So now black can meet d5 with knight to a5, hitting the queen and the bishop. Mistakes were made, but this is where we are. Instead of rook d1, I think white was supposed to go d5, which looks strange, just closing the position a pawn down, but then the black knight didn't have any great squares. Magnus has played knight to a3, which, yeah, as mentioned, looked like the most natural move from a human perspective. Interesting, both of them refused to go d takes e5, regaining the pawn, which is what Stein has actually played. So they do, what Chigorin actually played, they do value that center.
Yeah, I mean, knight a3 is sort of the instinctive move to me, completing the development. It's the most exciting move, and I'm really, really curious to see how Vishy reacts to it, because, again, Jan, you hinted at e takes d4, which is always a move you have to consider. The other idea to unwind is queen g6 and eventually d6. Queen g6, I'm queen kind
G6,
of sympathetic
bishop e7, no? Like,
and
if you start with queen g6, bishop e7, knight e5, and Chigorin finally gets his sights on that f7 pawn.
Mm-hmm. Which tells us e takes d4 first is perhaps the wiser option. I'm going to show this on the board. Queen g6, takes. And this is maybe not immediately losing, but it gets pretty darn unpleasant after bishop takes f7.
Yeah, this looks very scary. I don't know, maybe there was queen h5 instead of queen takes e4, but it all looks shaky.
So starting with e takes d4, c takes d4, and now playing queen g6. First of all, d5, knight a5, very, very important detail, hitting this queen, otherwise you'd lose a piece. And if black can get d6 and like bishop g4, and white's position collapses really, really quickly. This is the thing to understand. It's not all fun and games just because white has the center.
No, and queen g6 might even threaten some direct stuff, like knight takes d4 tactics are in there, but basically the onus is very much on white to make something happen. And what's been played? Vishy is thinking about it. And
knight a5 happened, Magnus laid his queen out of the way, and Vishy puts his other knight on c6, obviously trying to provoke the move d5.
Magnus goes for business, d5, question mark. I think this format is finally showing these guys are all horrible players. Without their opening prep, they don't know what they're doing. Every move looks terrible.
Yeah, send Chigorin back in to beat some sense into these guys.
Yeah.
We need Stein and some Chigorin back to help us understand what's going on. Actually, enticing black into queen f2.
So f2 is hanging, and rook d5 means black has to go queen f2, only square for the queen.
Position, but Magnus has played rook d5 and king h1. Vishy is in huge trouble.
So I was worried that the position would be too tough for white to handle. Turns out it was too tough for black to handle on both boards. The defenders. And maybe it's time to bring the King's Gambit, the Evans, bring them all back.
Honestly, you know, what you're saying contains more than a grain of truth. I actually don't like facing the Evans with black, especially in blitz. It's easy to get the moves confused. And as we see the two-board view, Vishy can resign. I think he's about to get his queen trapped. And Vishy's now officially down a queen. He parted ways with the lady, and he technically has gotten two minor pieces for it, but he's going to resign momentarily. on the right side of your screen. And rook takes b6 by Carlsen. And now he can play e takes d5 and then d takes c6. And then I think Vishy will resign.
Yeah. Vishy Anand, the legend from Chennai in India.
Yeah. Not the start that he had envisioned. And it really went off the rails early for both players, the black pieces. Probably the Hikaru game is more interesting at this point, but this is obviously the fan favorite. Apparently, after EDCB, White even can play bishop f6 and go for checkmate. But he's taken on c6. I don't know why this is a brilliant move. I think it's because at the end of the line, he wants to play bishop e7 and pick off the other rook.
Like DC, ED, CD, bishop e7. Yeah, that's bad news. But also, White is just a piece up, right? So once the dust clears, Vishy can very much resign.
Yeah, I mean, he probably has to go BC and then CD just so that he can save his rook. But Magnus has a million ways to checkmate there.
Yeah, but she does resign.